Hi everyone, welcome to my deep dive into Lucy's kit. I'm FlygonIQ, and I'm a big fan of Lucy's character and gameplay. This is not going to be a build guide or a kit reading, but a build guide will be linked in the description, along with my calculations. Instead, this is meant to be a detailed analysis of her playstyle and numbers. We'll talk about the things hidden between the lines of her tooltips and techniques to squeeze the most out of your Lucy. My hope is that after watching this video, you will understand how to approach optimizing Lucy and her teams, and learn some fun facts along the way. Let's start with Lucy's base kit at M0. Her kit has two key parts of note, Cheer-On and her boars. Cheer-On is a final attack buff that applies to the whole team, including boars and bangboos. You can see the remaining duration in the buff bar and in the pause screen under effect details. Cheer-On's buff will apply to the abilities that activate it, so no need to worry about that. Cheer-On uptime. At M0, Lucy gains Cheer-On when hitting anything with her EX special, for 10 seconds after a line drive and 15 seconds after a flyball. Line drive takes about 1.2 seconds to generate a quick assist. Flyball takes about twice as long at 2.4. If you care about using the quick assist, flyball will lead to about 1.2 seconds of wasted time, where the only free action you can launch is a single Lucy basic attack. Flyball, when cast normally, is only a 3.8 second Cheer-On duration gain. If you're willing to give up the quick assist, flyball can be cancelled out at about 0.7 seconds into the animation. Anything earlier will give you a line drive. I've calculated her expected buff uptime assuming no external energy gain, such as attacking on field. At M0 with Swing Jazz, ER main stat W engine, and ER in the D6 slot. You can expect about 60% with line drives and 90% with flyballs. Now for the boars, who appear as soon as you use any special in battle and never leave again. By default, they randomly use their slingshot, baseball bat, or boxing gloves. Their attacks are physical and do not do any anomaly damage. As for the boar stats, they basically inherit Lucy's stats. However, some stats are not inherited unless her additional passive is activated. The boars cannot multitask. This leads to some funny interactions. Lucy's third basic attack, which kicks a pig into the enemy, as well as using her specials, ult, and defensive assist, will pause their attacks until they recover. If you use Lucy's special attack right after her ult, it will actually steal one from the barrage and result in a weakened ult. I'll talk about combos later, but ZZZ is a very reactive and freeform game. Just be aware of these interactions. Anytime you start her fourth basic attack or gain/refresh Cheer-On, each boar will queue up a usage of a special move called Spinning Swing, which has significantly higher multipliers. When calculating the damage gain from queuing up Spinning Swings, we have to consider that it's not a gain from zero because the boars would have been attacking otherwise. I've done my best to calculate the move value per second or MVS of these actions and the gain from Spinning Swing. They normally deal 42 MVS per boar for a total of 126 MVS. During Spinning Swing, they each deal 119.5 MVS. Spinning Swing takes 4 seconds to execute in loop, which results in approximately 930 MV gained per Spinning Swing proc. However, the different ways of activating Cheer-On can take boars out of commission, which can result in them losing uptime. Details are on the chart on screen, but in summary, Line Drive loses 231, Flyball loses 335, Chain and Ult lose 882, M6 strikes lose 294, and Defensive Assist loses 504. In a real fight, these numbers will vary a lot because boars spend time chasing enemies anyway, and you will probably interrupt them mid-attack as well. But the loss from ult, chain, and parry are substantial, with M0 Lucy's chain attacks basically being worth no damage. This can somewhat be mitigated by using Lucy's attacks in quick succession, since the boars don't accumulate stun duration. Mindscapes. M1 can theoretically add 0.4 energy regen, but it's impossible to use it perfectly off cooldown. I have it at 0.353 in the calculator, which represents using it every 17 seconds. M2 has a variable effect because chain attacks also occur at inconsistent frequencies. Instead, the calculator includes calculations for how often you'd have to activate M2 to hit 100% uptime. M4? Yeah, it doesn't even double its effect on boars like her core passive suggests it might. M6 should trivialize Cheer-On uptime as long as someone is on field attacking to generate energy. While the tooltip says it drops a boar every time you hit with an EX special, the actual interactions are not necessarily intuitive. It seems to require separate instances of EX specials to proc, rather than just checking for hits, or Nicole would be able to drop multiple boars. The characters who do excel at proccing M6 have hold skills, which are likely coded to consume energy continuously to create new instances of their EX specials. Those characters are currently Corin, Bernice, and Piper. Most other characters do not have particularly notable interactions. You get a boar drop for each press of the skill button, if the internal cooldown is ready. The internal cooldown can be observed easily during any of these uses. There seems to be an extra pause after every set of 3. M6 is also when it actually matters that her boars inherit her anomaly mastery and proficiency. If you want Lucy to help start burn to enable infernal metal, anomaly mastery could be worth considering, but I think it's a niche option. Her M6 boar strikes have a daze multiplier of about 42%, a minuscule amount even when firing full volleys. As we discussed earlier, her boars cannot multitask. Launching one with M6 will stop them from attacking for 7 seconds, just like her ult, but it does queue up spinning swing for that boar. This is much more rewarding when you play with characters that specialize in spamming M6 strikes. Now, let's talk about ways to optimize Lucy in combat. First is a technique that involves swapping off a character as soon as you start an animation, preferably a longer one. I don't know if this has a name already, but I don't want to call it animation cancelling because animation still has to play, so I'm gonna call it animation masking for now. There are countless situations where you can squeeze extra efficiency in by starting an animation before you swap off. Lucy is a great target to switch to in animation masking because she excels at using short windows of field time. She can pop a quick line drive and hit for 1000%, refresh cheer on, proc spinning swing, and activate a quick assist. Any particularly long animation that doesn't require further input can potentially be masked. Think EX specials, slow combo finishers, even dodge counters. The sky's the limit. I encourage everyone to try and mask more and more animations as you feel more comfortable fighting in ZZZ, as it will make your combat feel much smoother. However, there is one catch that you should be aware of. In addition to the usual caveats that off-field characters cannot start chain attacks or activate anomalies with a few exceptions, buffs that only affect the on-field character will drop immediately when you switch, so even an in-flight attack like Lucy's line drive will go down in damage if you swap off before it hits. Why you should consider using Lucy's ult. Lucy ult doesn't do the most damage, which is ultimately compounded by the fact that all 3 boars get stunned. However, Lucy's ult has 0 end lag and can be swapped off immediately after the cut-in animation, which means her ult has the best possible frame data. It also gives your team a total of 50 energy. Now, having the best frame data in MVS obviously only matters if your DPS unit can make use of this time to deal damage that is competitive with their own ult. This generally consists of characters who have long burst animations and alternative sources of DPS that are competitive enough for use during the stun window. Corin and Piper are probably the best examples, and they can convert energy to damage and Lucy M6 procs effectively. Bernice's own ult has a similar advantage as Lucy's because it offers a quick assist, thus masking most of its own animation. Combos. Lucy doesn't have many combos to speak of, but there are a few points worth covering. If you intend to use flyballs, practice getting your free basic attack off. Practice masking long animations with a reverse swap to Lucy, followed by an immediate quick assist back to your DPS. Consider ending chain attacks with Lucy for a free quick assist. This enables you to get the fastest Lucy ult, as the quick assist will be waiting for you when the cut-in animation ends. This can be done outside of stun phase with an EX special cast. Generally speaking, to minimize the effect of Lucy stunning her boars, her attacks should be compressed into as short of a time frame as possible. For example, you can start a chain attack with a line drive, end the chain attack with Lucy, use Lucy ult, quick assist in, mask a DPS animation with the swap back to Lucy, then line drive again, finally ending on your DPS for their stun phase combo. A final note about maintaining cheer on uptime. If you aren't able to maintain full uptime for cheer on, you should aim to have it up when using your higher damage hits, and especially during stun phase. Team building with Lucy. First of all, missing her additional passive isn't going to hurt that much, especially compared to support passives like Nicole or Caesar. It only affects her personal damage, which is already not the bulk of the team's damage, and even assuming perfect boar uptime and an 150 CV disc set, losing the passive would only cut her damage around 25%. Currently, there are very few sources of off-field damage, and thus ways to make use of the fact that cheer on is a full team buff, but this could matter more in the future. Of course, her buff being immune to animation masking issues is a plus, as a fast-paced playstyle could lose buff uptime on many hits over the course of the fight, and those are generally bigger ones. While Lucy can work with any DPS, anyone who specializes in triggering her M6 is worth special attention. The Lucy-Caesar duo is also of particular note, as a duo who provides a whopping 1600 attack to the on-fielder, brings defensive utility and daze, and covers passives needing both fire and fizz. Is Lucy on-field a meme? Most of the time I'd say yes, but it depends on what you mean by on-field. Her basic attack string's value is almost entirely in the 4th attack, which does significantly more damage, is converted to fire, activates spinning swings, and loops back into itself quickly. However, most enemies will not allow you to just wail on them, and even Caesar can only block so many hits. During stun phase, she actually can do decent damage, but there aren't a lot of teammates other than Caesar to buff her at the moment, and the potential of M6 is somewhat squandered. I'd like to conclude with a list of Lucy's pros and cons. If you've made it this far in the video, I just want to take a moment to thank you for humoring this old Lucy enthusiast's rambling. Pros: team-wide attack buff with high uptime, extremely good frame data for animation masking, and short overall field time. Line drives can help you gap close quickly. Becomes a one-woman artillery battery at M6 with certain combos. Very low skill floor. Her boars provide substantial off-field damage. Cons: her projectiles can miss moving targets and have limited range, although you will still get the buff. Incomplete buff uptime at low mindscapes. Requires investment to reach her full potential, as her buffs alone will struggle to compete with other supports. Boars will struggle with uptime on mobile targets. I think Lucy has been greatly overlooked by many because on first read, her kit doesn't seem to provide as many buffs when compared to her fellows like Sokaku and her 1000 attack buff and ice damage buff. However, she more than makes up for it by maintaining her buffs and dropping significant chunks of damage with minimal field time. I'm sure this has been a lot of information, and the last thing I want to do is make you never want to parry with Lucy again. Unless you're missing she who clears by seconds, don't stress over it. If you've learned something today, or even just enjoyed this deep dive, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, build your Lucy, and see you in the hollows.